My name is Julia Bennett, and I'm 27. The night my boyfriend said, "Let's just be friends," I didn't make a scene. I rinsed a wine glass we weren't using and dried it until the rim sang under the towel. In my mind, I snapped a contractor's chalk line, blue dust floating for one held breath, then settling into a straight future. That line was where the rest of my life would stand. Liam leaned against the kitchen doorway like he was expecting weather. Arms folded, chin lifted, a man braced for the tantrum he believed he deserved for being honest. "It'll be better," he said, softening the words the way you butter a blade. "We still get along. Same friend group. We'd make amazing friends, just not amazing partners." He'd chosen his moment. The suitcase by the door wasn't a surprise. Neither was the screenshot of a rideshare waiting out front. He had somewhere to go. People don't leap without measuring the landing. "Okay," I said. His eyebrows twitched. "Okay?" "You're right," I told him. "Adults can be friends." Relief moved across his face like a tide. He wanted me to bargain, cry, ask him to stay so he could decide whether to be a hero or a martyr. I gave him exactly what he asked for. He left that night. The apartment listened after the door closed, the way a room listens for another footstep when it knows there won't be one. At 7:03 a.m., my phone lit up. Liam: "Hey, I left my work laptop. Can you drop it at Tessa's?" Me: "I'll leave it at your office front desk Monday." Liam: "I need it this weekend." Me: "Monday works better for me." He typed, erased, typed. The bubbles flickered like a heartbeat, unsure it wanted to commit to life. Liam: "Are you mad?" Me: "I'm being friendly." Liam: "Friends help each other out." I thought about the year we had lived here together, how he liked my systems, labeled cables, stacked warranties, rent paid on the first like a prayer you don't argue with. Friendship to me is mutual aid, but it isn't on call. It isn't a rebrand of a breakup. "Friends, then," I said aloud to the quiet room, as if the walls needed reassurance. "We'll be friends." By lunch, he'd tried again. Liam: "I might swing by to grab some clothes." Me: "Please text me the time. I'll set a box aside." Liam: "I still have a key." Me: "That was when we were dating." That afternoon, I scheduled a locksmith. It felt bureaucratic, not dramatic. The way you file an updated address, the way you cancel a streaming service you don't watch. The locksmith worked quickly and left 2 new keys on the counter like punctuation. I took one and slid the other into an envelope with his name on it. We could arrange a handoff in daylight. 2 adults, 2 friends. No surprises. He didn't like that. Liam: "Did you change the locks?" Me: "I rekeyed. Notice is on the door for your things." Liam: "That's petty." Me: "It's a boundary." His answer took longer this time. Liam: "We used to live together." Me: "We used to date." He stopped replying. That evening, I packed a small banker's box with his immediate items: 3 shirts, a belt, a cologne that smelled like someone else's yacht, and the hoodie he said I'd ruined by stealing at least 100 times. I folded it carefully. Being done doesn't mean you forget how to be kind. Saturday, our friends floated a group text for game night. I went. I didn't dress to punish anyone. I dressed like someone who could pay her own tab and leave when she wanted. Liam arrived with a woman I didn't know, tall, dewy, athletic, in the way that says, "I schedule my piece." He introduced her loudly, for the room. "This is Chloe. We met at yoga." The message wasn't for Chloe. It wasn't for the group. It was addressed to the space between us, where he assumed jealousy would be listening from behind the furniture. I smiled and welcomed her the way you welcome someone's new dog. Kind, open, privately aware it might chew things. During code names, I teamed up with Mason Hale. Broad shoulders, wry smile, reputation for fixing leaky things without condescension. I knew him through the same social drift that ties people to the same bar stools. More importantly, he was close with Tessa Moran, Liam's ex-girlfriend, the one who still lingered on the edges of his life like smoke from a party you forgot to close the window on. "Clue, anchor, 2, Mason murmured, tapping the side of his card. "You good?" "Solid," I said, and we were. We won by 1 point, then by 3, then by 5. As the table swore we were cheating with our eyebrows. Chloe laughed, easy and musical. Liam kept counting the laughter like it was a scoreboard he could salvage. At intermission, the kitchen became what kitchens always become, confessionals with hummus. Liam trailed me in and leaned a hand on the counter as if staking a claim. "You're really okay with this," he said, pitching it neutral. "With me and Chloe." "Friends date people," I said, opening a seltzer. "We're friends, remember?" He searched my face like there would be a tell, a crack, a flinch, a plea. I handed him the envelope with his key. "What's this?" he asked. "Logistics," I said. "It's easier than coordinating surprise visits. Your box is by the coat rack." The silence between us felt measured, not tense, like the break between a question and an answer on a standardized test. From the living room, Mason called, "We need our anchor back. They're falling apart without you." Liam's mouth pressed into the idea of a smile that didn't travel to his eyes. "You and Mason, huh? That's fast." "We're teammates," I said, shrugging. "On a board game." "Right," he said too brightly. "Just teammates." Chloe slid in, breezy and kind. "Hey, are we grabbing those cupcakes or what?" Liam put the envelope down like it was a grenade he wanted credit for disarming. "I'll get them," he told her, and left. Mason was the opposite of Liam's noise. When I came back, he offered me the good seat and, later, his phone with a photograph I didn't expect. A pier at dusk, a chalk line of horizon holding up a sky that wanted to weep and changed its mind. "I take pictures of straight things," he said, then grimaced. That sounded wrong. "It didn't," I told him. "I get it. I did. I build straight things too. Routines, paperwork, dinner plans that don't crown one person as the eternal decider. I build rooms that don't collapse if someone slams a door. After midnight, I lifted my coat and said goodnight. Chloe waved. Liam didn't. He was staring at his phone like it had betrayed him by being accurate. On the walk home, the city clicked back into place. Neon, wet pavement, strangers rehearsing different versions of the same courage. My phone buzzed. "Mason, you handled tonight like an adult. Coffee sometime? I promise no eyebrow cheating." Me. "Coffee is friendly." Mason. "So are we." I stopped at the crosswalk and looked up. Overhead, a cable stretched from one building to the next, taut and practical, so effortlessly bearing what it promised to bear. The light changed. I crossed. 5 minutes later, another message came in. This one at once familiar and bored with itself. "Liam, you really okay with this? With how you're acting?" Me. "I'm acting like your friend." Liam. "Then do me a favor. Bring the laptop to Chloe's tomorrow." Me. "Monday. Front desk." Liam. "You're making this difficult." Me. "I'm making it clear." He called. I let it ring out. When it stopped, the apartment received me with the soft thud of a place that knew my footsteps. I set my keys, poured water, and wrote a list for the morning. Cancel shared subscriptions, update emergency contact, label one more box. Not a demolition, a renovation. Before bed, I opened my notes app and typed a line I wanted to live by. Clarity is not cruelty, it's the load-bearing wall. I slept. Part 2. The next morning started like any other. Coffee, laundry, inbox. Only this time, I wasn't checking to see if Liam had texted. I was making a list of all the ways my name and his were still tangled. Phone plan. Streaming accounts. The lease renewal he'd left unsigned. I brewed another cup and opened my laptop. Separation wasn't heartbreak, it was administration. I drafted polite, unambiguous emails, called the phone carrier, updated HR to remove him as my emergency contact, preempting whatever stunt he might think was clever. By noon, the apartment had stopped smelling like his cologne and started smelling like lemon cleaner and quiet. Then, predictably, came the message. Liam. "Why'd I get an email about being removed from the plan?" Me. "Because we're no longer a couple. You'll need your own account." Liam. "Wow. Cold." Me. "Organized. There's a difference." He sent a string of dots, the modern equivalent of sighing at someone through glass. Saturday rolled in with rain and that group chat energy people use to pretend nothing's changed. Game night again? Brunch? Everyone pretending they hadn't noticed Liam bringing Chloe last week. I declined brunch. I needed a day with my plants, my receipts, and no versions of Liam in the background. Still, my phone buzzed mid-afternoon. Liam. "You're really going to ignore everyone now?" Me. "I'm not ignoring anyone, just choosing quiet." Liam. "We always do brunch." Me. "That was when we were dating." There was a pause, then, Liam. "You're being distant." Me. "I'm being friendly." I muted him for the rest of the day. That night, a new name appeared on my screen. Mason. "Hey, this is random, but thanks for not taking Liam's bait the other night. You made it easier for the rest of us." Me. I wasn't trying to make anything easier, just cleaner. Mason. Clean's underrated. Coffee sometime? I stared at that line longer than I should have. Mason was careful with his words, steady, respectful. He'd known Liam through the group for years, but wasn't part of his inner chaos. His calm felt like a new language. Me, sure, coffee sounds good. We met Sunday morning at a small cafe that still believed in ceramic mugs. He wore a denim jacket and that kind of quiet confidence that doesn't need to apologize for itself. You don't have to explain anything, he said after we ordered. Everyone saw what happened. The way he kept pushing. I stirred my latte. I'm not angry, just done. That's rarer than it should be, he said, smiling. We talked about work. He was an engineer, good with blueprints and water pressure, things that held weight. We laughed about our mutual friends' dramatic group chats, and by the end, I forgot why I'd been nervous. When I got home, there were 6 missed calls from Liam, and 1 text. Liam. Mason? Really? You're doing this to hurt me? Me. Doing what? Liam. You know what? Me. Getting coffee? Friends get coffee. He didn't reply, but by evening, word had traveled through the grapevine faster than caffeine through veins. Tessa texted me out of nowhere. Tessa. You know Mason's one of my closest friends, right? Me. I do. Tessa. Then maybe don't make this messier than it already is. Me. Meaning? Tessa. Meaning stop trying to prove something. You already broke him. Broke him? The man who told me to be his friend 3 weeks ago? The same man who paraded a new woman into game night before the sheets were cold? But I didn't take the bait. I typed, deleted, then replied, Me. Appreciate your concern, Tessa. Have a good night. 2 days later, Liam showed up at my apartment unannounced, rain dripping from his jacket, holding the box I'd packed for him. You didn't have to go this far, he said, standing in the doorway. Changing locks, cutting off accounts, it's excessive. Boundaries aren't excessive, I said evenly. They're realistic. He looked past me, into the apartment that no longer had room for him. I thought we could still talk. Keep each other in our lives. We are, I said, just differently. You've changed, he said. No, I answered. I just stopped negotiating with confusion. He shook his head, half smiling, half resentful. Mason's not even your type. Good, I said. My type clearly needed work. He flinched, then forced a laugh. You're being cruel. No, Liam, I'm being clear. He left without saying goodbye, but the sound of his shoes in the hallway felt like a door finally locking itself. By Friday, Mason texted again. Mason, there's a comedy show this weekend. I have an extra ticket if you're free. Me. Sounds fun. He sent a thumbs up emoji. Simple. No pressure. I like that. Saturday night, I dressed up. Not for anyone, just because I could. A simple dress, clean eyeliner, the kind of confidence that comes from knowing you'll pay your own bill. The show was good. Loud, funny, free. Mason laughed easily, but never too loudly. When he walked me to my car, he said, You don't look like someone who's figuring things out. You look like someone who already has. I smiled. Don't ruin the illusion. He grinned, then hesitated. May I? I nodded. The kiss was brief, almost shy, and somehow more honest than anything I'd had in months. I didn't post it, didn't tell anyone. I just went home feeling like I'd stepped back into my own skin. Sunday morning, the peace shattered. Liam. Are you serious? Me. Good morning. Liam. Mason told people you're dating now? Me. We had coffee and saw a show. Liam. He's my friend. Me. He's also mine. Friends share friends, right? He called. I ignored it. Then came another text. Liam. This isn't how friends act. Me. It's exactly how friends act. You're confusing it with how boyfriends act. Silence. Then finally. Liam. You're making me the bad guy. Me. I'm letting your actions speak for themselves. I put the phone face down. Across the room, morning light drew a blue line along the floor, the same hue as chalk dust. A reminder of where I'd decided the wall would stand. Part 3. 3 weeks after the let's be friends talk, Liam's plan was unraveling. Whatever version of friendship he'd imagined, one where I still handled his bills, his errands, his emotional weather, had evaporated. He just didn't realize yet that the loss wasn't me. It was control. Mason and I had been seeing each other casually, nothing heavy. We both had our own lives and made no promises beyond honesty. It was refreshingly adult. No dramatics, no ambiguity. Liam, however, wasn't doing as well. He'd started testing boundaries in creative ways, calling my office by accident, sending packages to my address because it's habit, leaving voice notes late at night about how weird everything felt. When that didn't get a reaction, he escalated. One Tuesday morning, my boss knocked on my cubicle wall. "Julia," she said gently, "I got a strange call from someone claiming to be your emergency contact, said you were having a breakdown and might not come in today." I set down my pen. "Who?" I asked, already knowing. "Someone named Liam Porter." My stomach didn't drop. It hardened. "I appreciate you telling me," I said. "We recently ended things. He's having trouble with boundaries." She nodded, concerned but professional. "HR will document it." "Please do," I said. "I've been keeping a record too." That night, I emailed HR with timestamps, screenshots, and a clean summary. Not out of spite, out of self-respect. If Liam wanted to turn this into a story, I'd make sure the truth had an outline. By Thursday, his tone shifted. "Liam, I miss you." Me. "We're friends, remember?" Liam. "Friends can miss each other." Me. "Then you'll understand when I say I need space." 2 hours later, my phone buzzed again, but not from him. "Tessa, you might want to check what people are saying about you." She attached a screenshot, our old couple photos, blurred just enough to look like secrets, with captions implying I'd been cruel, manipulative, unfaithful. "Tessa, why are you doing this?" I texted back. Her response came fast. "Tessa, because you deserve it. You stole his peace." Me. "He ended it. He asked to be friends." Tessa. "He was lost. You're punishing him for it." Punishing him? For choosing his freedom? I didn't reply. I'd learned there's no logic in arguing with someone who's built a shrine to their own suffering. That weekend, Mason and I went for a walk by the river. He listened quietly as I told him what was happening. "Sounds like she's projecting," he said finally. "Liam was never over her. She's not over him. And you're just the screen they're both writing on." "That's comforting," I said dryly. He smiled. "Not meant to be, just perspective." I laughed, and for a moment it felt simple again. Then, at 2:14 a.m. on a Sunday, the text came. "Tessa, I'm late." Me. "Late for what?" Tessa. "You know what I mean. I'm pregnant." I stared at the words until they blurred. Me. "Congratulations. Who's the father?" Tessa. "Are you serious?" Liam, obviously. Interesting, considering Liam and I hadn't been together for 2 months, and according to his own stories, neither had she. Me. "When's your appointment? We'll figure this out properly." Tessa. "I don't need your help." Me. "Then why text me?" No reply. By Monday afternoon, she sent another message. "Tessa, false alarm, never mind." Right. Liam called that evening, his voice strained and defensive. "You told Mason about the pregnancy rumor?" "I told him someone texted me at 2 a.m. with a lie," I said. "That's not gossip, that's context." He groaned. "Tessa's been going through a lot. You're making it worse." "By existing?" "You know what I mean." "No, Liam," I said softly. "That's the problem. I never know what you mean. You say one thing, do another, then blame everyone else for the mess." He fell quiet. "I didn't call HR," he muttered finally. "I didn't say you did." Another silence. "Are you seeing Mason?" "I'm spending time with someone who respects me," I said. "If that bothers you, maybe you should ask yourself why." He hung up. 3 days later, Mason texted, "Tessa showed up at my office." I blinked. "What?" He called immediately. She waited in the lobby for over an hour, told reception we were involved and she needed to speak with me privately. My chest went cold. "Are you okay?" She didn't touch me, just yelled. Security walked her out. "She's unraveling," I said quietly. "Yeah, and she's blaming you for the threads." I exhaled. "Of course she is." He hesitated. "Julia, I think we need to take this seriously. Document everything. Maybe even talk to someone legal." "I already started," I said. HR, texts, screenshots. I'm not letting this spin out of control. "Good," he said, "because she's not done." He was right. That night, I got a message from a mutual friend. Friend, "Tessa's saying you're stalking Liam and using Mason to get revenge. Is that true?" I almost laughed. "If I were stalking anyone," I typed back, "I wouldn't be this well rested." But there was nothing funny about what came next. 2 days later, my building manager called. "Ms. Bennett, someone reported you for noise disturbances and unsafe behavior." "What?" He cleared his throat. It was anonymous, but the description sounded personal. I thanked him and hung up. Then I printed everything. Texts, emails, timestamps. The stack of paper was almost comforting. The next morning, I sat across from Mason at a cafe, slid the folder onto the table, and said, "I'm filing a restraining order." He nodded. "I'll back you up." Outside, the city hummed, indifferent and alive. I thought about that chalk line again, the one I drew the night Liam said, "Let's be friends." I'd made it to keep my world steady. Now it was the only thing holding the rest of it up. Part 4. Filing the restraining order wasn't a dramatic scene. There was no shouting, no courtroom gasp, no cinematic thunder, just me, a desk, and a form I filled out with neat, careful handwriting. Dates, times, screenshots, cause and effect, evidence of a woman who refused to be rewritten. The officer at the counter nodded as he flipped through the pages. "You've done most of the legwork already," he said. "This'll move quickly." It did. Within 48 hours, a notice was served to both Tessa and Liam. That same evening, I got a final call from my building manager. "She came by again," he said quietly. "Said she needed to check on you. We told her she's no longer allowed on the property." "Thank you," I said, and meant it. Word travels fast when people are bored. Within a week, the same friends who'd once whispered about how cold I'd been were now whispering about how scary Tessa's meltdown had gotten. Apparently, she'd missed multiple days of work and had been put on probation after an incident with a customer. When she started sending erratic emails to Mason's company, HR intervened. Therapy was court-mandated. Liam tried to reach out once more. Blocked number, unfamiliar tone, calm, apologetic, a shade of regret that sounded rehearsed. "Julia," he began, "I just want to say I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I thought I was doing the right thing. I didn't realize how bad she'd get." "You didn't realize," I repeated, the words flat as glass. "You didn't realize, or you didn't care until it inconvenienced you?" He hesitated. "Both, maybe." "Then I hope you learned something from it," I said, because I did. "What's that?" "That boundaries don't make you cruel," I told him. "They make you free." He didn't answer, just breathed into the line until I hung up. Mason and I didn't make an announcement or change our status online. We didn't owe anyone an origin story that started in the ashes of someone else's drama. We simply were. He came over one evening with takeout and a small photo frame. Inside was a picture he'd taken weeks ago. The pier at dusk, the one with the blue horizon and the chalk-lined sky. "Thought you might want a reminder," he said. "Of what?" "That straight doesn't always mean rigid," he said. "Sometimes it just means steady." I smiled, tracing the frame's edge. "I could use steady." He grinned. "Lucky for you, that's my specialty." A month later, Tessa sent one last email. Subject, "You won." Her message was long, bitter, and heavy with self-pity. "I hope you're happy. You got everything you wanted. You turned my friends against me, made me look crazy, ruined my relationship, all because you couldn't handle being replaced. You and Mason deserve each other. I tried to be kind. I tried to keep the peace, but you couldn't let it go. You had to win." I read it twice, once as evidence, once as closure, then I deleted it without replying. Because there's no victory in chaos. There's only endurance. 6 months later, the pieces of my life had found their new places. A different apartment, smaller but mine. New projects at work, where no one tiptoed around the ghost of my ex. Mason and I still saw each other often, but without ownership. We built things in parallel, not on top of each other. Sometimes when he'd come over, he'd pause by the framed photo on my bookshelf. "That's still your favorite, huh?" "It's not the picture," I said once. "It's what it reminds me of." "What's that?" "That night I drew the line," I said. "The night I decided the rest of my life would stand on something straight, something mine." He nodded slowly. "You built the wall, and you built it level." I smiled. "It's load-bearing." We laughed, and for the first time in a long time, the laughter didn't sound like recovery. It sounded like life. Epilogue. Sometimes I still think about Liam's version of friendship, the one where love never has to die. It just changes names and keeps the same privileges. The kind of friendship that's really just ownership in disguise. But real friendship, the kind you can rebuild your world with, doesn't ask you to dim or bend or wait. It doesn't demand emotional rent for a house you've already moved out of. When he said, "Let's be friends," I took him at his word. I treated him with boundaries, respect, and distance. And somehow, that was the one thing he couldn't handle. Because when someone says they want to stay friends after breaking you, what they often mean is they want to keep the parts of you that serve them, without the responsibility that came with loving you. And the most merciful thing you can do for both of you is to let that version die. I didn't win. I just walked away, steady and clear, with the line I'd drawn still glowing faintly beneath my feet. It wasn't revenge, it was alignment. And for the first time, the wall stood tall enough to hold everything I was meant to become.